Perfect. So good morning again. My name is Tony Ogbe, and I'm the marketing manager at Anika Digital. I'm joined by my colleague, Amy, and she's going to be taking us on a presentation about the value of product placement for PR. Hi, Amy. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Tony. I'm really good, thank you. It's Friday and it's sunny, so I'm all good. And I'm talking about PR as usual. So, what's not to love?
That's good. So we're going to go ahead to take the first poll, and if everyone can please see, let me know if they can see the poll on the screen.
Yeah, I can see it.
Perfect. And we're just going to be seeing people's responses as it comes in. So the question is, do you use product placements as part of outreach tactics? If yes, no, or if you do not know what product placement is, not to worry. Amy's going to go ahead to cover it in her presentation today.
Hopefully. I mean, that's what I've been working on, right? So we should be okay.
We're just going to give it a little bit more time for more responses. So there's a good split. Like, a lot of people do not know what product placement is,
Okay.
And which is actually quite good, because I'm sure you're going to cover it today in your presentation.
Absolutely.
We're going to go ahead to take the second poll. 1 second. Okay, so the second poll says, do you use PR as a part of outreach tactics? Sorry.
PR as part of your...
Yeah, part of your marketing strategy.
Yeah.
If yes or no, just going to give it a little more time for responses. Can everyone see it on their screen? If you don't mind, just putting it on the chat just to let me know if you can see it or not. Okay, you can't see the poll.
Can't see the poll.
1 second. Stop polling.
Thank you for your feedback. We'll look at this.
Let me take it back. Stop polling. Can you see it now? That's interesting. Okay, I can start seeing some responses now in the poll. Perfect. Okay. Do you use PR as a part of your marketing? So it's an interesting split. So a lot of people said no. Well, 61% said no and 39% said yes.
Why aren't you using it? Come on, guys.
That's interesting. So those are all the polls, and yeah, Amy, you can go ahead to
Brilliant. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to not share my screen as I present, and I won't be able to see my screen anyway when I'm presenting. And I'm just would rather just focus exactly on the slides and give you the very best presentation that I can. So I hope that's okay with you guys. And it'll be less distracting as well, because I'll just be fiddling with my hair because I have anxiety about presenting. So yeah, so I think it's better if I just turn it off. So I'm just going to do that now, and my screen's already sharing. So Tony, I'm going to do that and just make sure that you can see the presentation.
yes.
Is that is all come up as is? Has it? It's all there?
Yes, you're good.
Great. And you can see the next slide.
Yes, please.
Perfect. Okay, then. So thank you again all for coming along. I know there's such a variety of very interesting webinars that we present here at Anika. And it's particularly nice when I get sort of into the rota and asked to talk about PR, because obviously that's my topic. So effectively, I'm head of PR at Anika, and my job title is digital PR strategist. And the term digital is actually quite important within that, because we're not just about getting coverage in magazines and newspapers. It's about much more around link building and kind of working alongside the SEO team and using SEO tactics to kind of get links and to kind of build awareness and show get the message out there. So we use lots of different ways of doing it. So PR's really evolved since when I started like several years ago within the industry to where we are now. It's a really good evolution as well. So I've been with Annika for around 4 years. Some of you might have heard me presenting before. The last time I presented, it was my colleague Ebony. She's on maternity at the moment, and delighted to say that she's had her babies. So really lovely news. So she's working, she's at home, and my other colleague Lauren is at writing SEO today. So she's having a really interesting time out of the office, learning more about SEO. I've worked both in agencies and client side. That means working for the business itself, but always kind of in PR and marketing. So in terms of my role at Annika, I deliver the PR strategy. I look at insights and look and see what opportunities there are for clients to get coverage, and then focus on outreach in terms of what we're going to do for both business to business and business to consumer clients. And as I mentioned before, work really closely with the SEO team to see how PR can kind of build links for businesses. So I also, some of you might be familiar with me having delivered the content modules for the training sessions. Really interesting day. And there's a lovely picture of me. Then I changed my hair since then, actually. But so you can see me there. And just so you give you some context more about me outside of work, I live in the East Midlands and I love the countryside. Basically have a little dog and kind of just my kind of downtime is taking her out for nice walks and sort of getting out in the fresh air. That's kind of my therapy. Yeah, so I really love that. I used to live in London, but I love living in the countryside as well. Okay, so just a little bit about Annika. You would have seen this slide before if you come to the webinars regularly, but we cover the following 5 areas: strategy, social, search, shopping and skills. And PR sits within the search bracket and obviously within the SEO banner as well. Excuse me. So the agenda today, covering quite a few things around product placement, but I thought it might be useful to kind of actually understand and read and sort of remind everyone around PR and what that is, just in case if it's not familiar to you, you get a sense of what it is and how it works. And if you are familiar with PR, there might be some tactics that I explain that would be of value to you. We're going to do some exploration around product placement we're going to look at the importance of product placement within PR and specifically look at B2B and B2C campaigns because I think when we think about product placement, we think about just like a can of Coke being sort of promoted within a movie, and there's a lot more to it than that. So there is great value for B2B as well. We're going to look at some of the kind of challenges and opportunities that there are with product placement. With all marketing things, we think about our marketing funnel. You know, measurement's a really important part, and it's certainly something I want to focus on today in terms of how we actually see the value of product placement. And I think it's also important to kind of think about not what's happened with product placement, but what actually the opportunities are with anything. And that's the same with product placement. So we'll be looking ahead to think about how product placement can be incorporated into some of the trends we're seeing right now and opportunities. And then I'll give a summary. So I've got around just under 40 slides. They're none of them are too long, and hopefully all quite straightforward. I can't see the questions you put into the chat, so Tony will pick any of those up or answer them if he can. So if you can't, we'll answer them at the end. Excuse me. So I just want to talk about what PR is and the value that it delivers.
Hi, Amy.
Yeah, hi.
Sorry, someone just said the presentation has dropped out here, so no more audio visuals. Can you like stop presenting and then go ahead to present again? Maybe that would help. Can everyone see? Please, can everyone just let me know in the chat if you can see the presentation?
I can see it on my screen in the kind of presenter view.
Okay.
Currently.
Okay.
I can see in here.
Okay,
it's
perfect.
Okay, my end.
Everyone can see. Okay, perfect. No worries. Sorry about that.
Gives me a chance to cough. I don't know why I'm coughing today. I need a coffee. But thank you guys for the feedback, and you know, obviously we want you to have the best experience. So thank you for your feedback. So I've popped up a little definition here, and this is, you may remember this from one of my previous slides. And it's a definition from the Chartered Institute of Public Relations, of which I am an associate member. So this is like the governing body for PR. It makes sure that we all work to kind of ethical and high standards, and it gives like ongoing training insights around PR. And it's like the governing body around the industry, very important organisation. And they have this amazing definition, which is kind of carried through from the days when I was at uni through till now. But essentially, it's all around reputation and the result of your actions. What you're saying, and not about you personally, but what you're saying as a business, a brand or service, and what others are saying about you. And that could be the media, third parties, or influencers. So let's read through the definition. Public relations is a discipline which looks after reputation with the aim of earning, understanding, and support and influencing opinion and behaviour. It is the planned and sustained. That's really important. So it's about planning your campaigns and activity and maintaining them, to establish and maintain goodwill. So putting positive news out there, or positive articles or insights, and mutual understanding between an organisation and its publics. And publics is a broad word, but obviously you have different target audiences depending on what your business or brand or service is. So when you look at the presentation, you'll be able to click in to the highlight there, the CIPR, and you'll be able to go exactly to that definition. And if you want to learn more about the organisation, you can obviously track back and look at it via that link. So how can PR help businesses? So there's a number of different ways, and it's not an endless list, but we've tried to pull out like the kind of key ones here. So PR can help improve your brand's reach and visibility, so you get to be seen more by more people. It amplifies and enhances your credibility and your reputation. So essentially, it puts out a kind of positive, not spin, but a positive message around your business, service, or brand, and equally builds a kind of really positive reputation, and make sure that you're kind of well received by your target audience. Equally, it allows you to control messaging, and essentially it can help you protect your brand. So if you think about the work you do with your reputation, the more you can do to kind of enhance your reputation, the better that is, because it allows you to kind of manage kind of any negativity that might come your way. And particularly if you're controlling the narrative around messaging, that is a great way for you to kind of protect your business. There's a lot of debate around PR and its kind of value, and if it can actually help convert. And we definitely see that PR can definitely influence and increase sales and help generate revenue. We can see this when we look at click data and see how that's actually helped visibility for businesses. So it's really important, that kind of measurement element there. It can also maximize your return on investment, so you can actually see how valuable it is and give you an advantage over your competitors. And that leads into actually increasing your share of voice. That's SOV. So share of voice is kind of making sure essentially you've got more column inches than your competitors. Really important. So it's important to kind of look at what the differences are between traditional PR and what the differences are with digital PR. So there's a list here, but I think essentially it's important to kind of understand there are differences. It might be around the agenda and objectives, the different specific brand awareness for different sectors, how you're building links and increasing online traffic, whether it's around coverage generation, excuse me, in print media, and not versus links, measurement and effectiveness. So some of the things I'll pull out here around traditional PR, things like event management and sponsorships, crisis comms, thought leadership, such as speaking opportunities, interviews and feature articles and awards. Whereas with digital PR, we can pull out things like link building, partnerships with influencers, or your online reputation management, blogger outreach, and sort of other content marketing activities. But within there's a common denominator. Sorry, I can't get my words out. So I haven't had a coffee, and I've put product placement as a common thing here, because we can look at it for both. Both elements can include product placement. So that leads me on now to talk about product placement in a bit more detail. So there was on the poll, understandably, there was some of you didn't know what product placement was. And I tried to find kind of an industry definition, and it's quite hard to do that. And there's lots of different sort of variations on the theme, but I like the one from Shopify. You're probably all familiar with Shopify. And it says product placement is a marketing technique where your products are shown in social media, on TV, in music videos, or elsewhere. And I thought that was quite good, because it's not just saying it's all about TV and movies or music videos, because we're thinking here about B2B outreach as well. So that's where the elsewhere bracket comes in. So I think that's kind of important for me. That was an important word to include within the quote, because I didn't want you to think that product placement is just about placing that can of Coke in a movie. So let's go into this in a little bit more detail. So the focus is around branded products and services. It literally is about placing a branded or recognized item or service. So because it wants to stand out. It's strategic, because you have to think about it and plan it, and it's integrated into a channel. So essentially that means it's not, it's kind of seamless in terms of the integration. It doesn't stand out like an advert does. It kind of looks normal, as it were. And I've got several examples, visual examples, so you can see this in action. It very much is something that should appear non-intrusive. So it shouldn't jump out at you and go, oh my gosh, they've just placed this can of Coke in there. You know, it's something that's a lot more subtle and often related to like real life or real situations. It isn't limited to like the movies. And PR is the way of facilitating product placement into editorial. So that's a really important thing to think about here. So things like top 10s and gift guides and how-tos, that's how you can get your products seen. And you're not advertising your product, but you're placing it in a relevant sort of feature or article. So that's an example of it there. So there's some core attributes that we can look at around product placement, and they cover 6 kind of key areas. So the first is we look at integration. So this is where product placement is like seamlessly incorporated. So it's not disruptive, like we talked about, or overtly promotional. So this is basically saying it's not an ad. And it's not jarring. It doesn't sort of jump out at you and you think it doesn't look kind of out of place. That's really important. The second point is around visibility, and it's about making sure it's actually, if you're going to do it, make sure it is prominent and visible. So this can be seen in both TV and in print. You see it as part of a wider piece of relevant coverage. So you've got to make sure it is relevant, because if it wasn't, it would stand out in the wrong way. You've got to make sure it's authentic, so therefore it feels natural and aligns to tones, themes, and demographics of your target audience. So again, it's not jarring. It's something that resonates with the audience. It's something that they kind of really understand and kind of feels quite natural. Point 4 is around brand exposure, and that's by association. It delivers kind of extensive brand exposure to an engaged audience. So it's really kind of amplifying that brand value and brand exposure. And it can also work really well with another brand, so like as a cross promotion. And again, you want to make sure it kind of fits, but it can be leveraged as part of a broader marketing campaign to maximize other promotional activity to really kind of help build impact. And finally, we talked about measurement before and the importance of that. And we've got to make sure that the work we do with product placement is actually measurable. And you do that via metrics and tracking tools. So it could be things like social media engagement or sales uplift or even link clicks. So I think it's interesting now to kind of look and see why it's actually valuable for PR. Because we've seen what it does and we've seen how we can integrate it and how that can work well. But why is it actually valuable in this kind of area of PR? So it's important because it can enhance your visibility. We talked about becoming more visible with PR, didn't we? We talked about how it's important that you're making your brand more visible. And it can also help drive trust and that magical conversion. So that's really important. So it's a very valuable tool. It can help build brand awareness. It can help build that kind of positive reputation. Remember, we talked about reputation as a key element of PR and kind of what it stands for and what it means, and can influence decision making of the target audience. So that's really important, particularly if you're doing it subtly, and you know it's not jarring, it's not an ad. Actually, that's really important because it allows your audience to kind of really to see the value of it. And you know, as a PR tactic, it can integrate communication strategies to align your messages, which are relevant to your target audience. So that's important. It's not just a kind of wide audience. It's much harder actually to target like a sort of for a movie, because it's a much bigger mass market. B2B can actually be quite a lot more effective in terms of its targeting. And finally, we talk about credibility here. Again, it's around building credibility by association via trusted media. So, for example, if you see a product listed in your favourite magazine that you trust, you trust that product more, essentially. And also reputable third parties and influencers. So again, you know, if a third party that you trust and value is using your product, you actually see that as more credible and more trustworthy. And I think that's a Wayne's World screenshot there with pizza. So from Pizza Hut, obviously. Okay. So, as I said here, it's not all about the movies. It's important to know that, you know, it's TV is valuable for TV as well. So this is a screenshot from this morning, and it's actually a while back because I was kind of scrolling around trying to find relevant examples. So this was I don't know if he's still on this morning, but this is a guy called Phil Vickery. He was a chef on this morning. And the reason why I pulled this out is just because I got some data around this product placement, which I thought kind of really brought it to life. So it was reported that Nestle paid over £100,000 for its Dolce Gusto coffee machine to appear on this morning's cooking slot. And you can see, if you can't see it, it's at the back on the counter to the right of the sink, sort of by that weighing scales. That's the Dolce Gusto coffee machine. And that, you know, they paid a huge amount of money for it just to be sitting in the background. So you just think it looks like a normal kitchen, but actually that's a very strategic piece of PR marketing there with that coffee machine being placed. And I got a quote from a guy called Darryl Collins. He's a director at Seesaw Media, which is a product placement agency. And he said on behalf of this particular placement, it's what the brand does with the placement and association that really makes an impact. The placement on this morning is the most obvious way of promoting their association. So it's relevant, it's credible, it's on a cooking slot. You know, it was a huge has huge circulation or viewership. So it really was kind of really relevant. And I thought I'd pull a few more examples out for you as well. So just to kind of prove it's not just about TV and movies. So lots of products here within this kind of lovely gift guide. They've obviously gone for a certain theme and they've been pulling products along. But, you know, they are by association and build credibility and value. They build credibility and value because they're in a particular magazine that's read by a particular target audience. And also there's relevancy around it, the fact it's a gift guide and it's for women. So actually people will be looking at this and thinking, well, actually, I really need to get, you know, some ideas, potentially for Christmas. And there's some lovely ideas here. So it's all kind of, it builds up quite a lot of trust and positive association. And then I popped in an article from The Independent here, which is around, they do lots of kind of tried and tested and top 10s, The Independent. You'll see that a lot when you're looking for reviews on things. The Independent kind of use this as a kind of really good piece of kind of SEO. So they're doing a feature around the heated clothes areas, and lots of people use, because of like the cost of fuel, a lot of people use heated clothes areas. It's a really popular product. And this is a really good example of product placement here. And then we've got an article here. I think it was for GQ. It was just missing in the top left corner. The best trainer brands is for 2023. And they've got lovely pictures of them there. And then I've popped in an article from a trade publication called Fuel, called Truck and Track. And the feature they were writing was about fuel management. So on the right hand side, there's an ad for this company called Meridale. And there's a feature here on the left, and it's got information about Meridale. And it's much more subtle because this is part of a feature. They're talking about how beneficial the company is and what they can do to help corporate customers. And so it's more subtle because it's got trust and credibility from the brand because it's included in an article. But it's a lot more jarring, the ad, isn't it, on the right-hand side? So you can see the difference here between a product that's been placed or pitched into the article as a part of PR and the difference to an ad. So I thought that was quite a useful one to see, because actually it's quite different, in terms of what the look and feel is here. So I think that was quite a stark kind of an obvious difference. So we talked about what it looks like. So why is it so important in PR? Essentially, product placement allows you to build an authentic brand within the kind of PR tactic. So it can enhance your messaging, it can promote a positive brand image, it can build a narrative and help tell a story. It creates that authenticity we talked about, particularly with partnerships and but are being placed within kind of reputable third parties. And again, like that reputation piece there, and it increases engagement. If we look back to that trade article, I think we're all engaged in that. They're looking at kind of the different images that were used, and certainly if you read the copy, it'd be very relevant to the target audience. So that would be very engaging, and potentially more engaging than the advert was on the right hand side. So now I'm going to look at the differences between B2B and B2C product placement. So it gives you an idea of both. And I think we talked earlier about the subtlety of it. So this is a shot from a movie called The Devil Wears Prada. And this is an actress called Anne Hathaway, and she was playing the lead role within the movie. And she had it's about actually the fashion industry, and she had a boss called Miranda, who's based on a fashion writer for Vogue. And she's got a very demanding boss, wanting everything like 5 minutes ago. And this PA who's really trying to make her way within the fashion is like really stressed out. She's always on the phone to her, and as part of her daily routine, she goes and gets the coffees for the team. And she's got Starbucks. Now, that wouldn't even jump out as being product placement. That is pure product placement in a movie. So you've got an amazing logo in the background there, which would have been clearer in a previous shot, but you can see clearly the recognition here that is Starbucks. And it's kind of saying it's convenient, it's easy to get. It just enhances your job. It can help you do your job because it's quick and easy to get these really lovely coffees and satisfy your boss. There's always lots of different messages going on here, so you can see how it comes to life within this sort of context. So in terms of those benefits then, so there's kind of 4 things are kind of pulled out. So one's around increasing visibility. The second is around building trust and authenticity. Then we've got empathy and connection. And finally, no hard sell. So in terms of increasing visibility, brands can reach a kind of much bigger and more engaged audience if placed on a popular channel. And I've kind of given TikTok here as an example, because you get lots of stuff on TikTok, don't you? You get lots of product placement on TikTok. And influencers use it certainly as a kind of way to leverage their monetizing as well. In terms of B2C, it builds trust and it's authentic. I'd say the same actually for B2B, but particularly for B2C, particularly for say shape of the trusted character. So if you're doing that in a movie and you see that character from Wayne's World eating pizza, that's exactly what he would be doing. He wouldn't be having a Starbucks, and this character here wouldn't be having like a pizza. So it becomes more authentic, doesn't it? Like when they position it correctly with the right person. Then thirdly, we look at empathy and connection. So this is around consumer loyalty being enhanced because it's more subtle. So I think it really comes to life here with the Starbucks example. And finally, it's much warmer than an ad, so it feels totally more organic and like natural. Then if we look at this in terms of the benefits of B2B PR, I talked about 4 things here. So it's very much about positioning as leaders, reaching decision makers, because that's really important with B2B. That's one of the kind of things we want to do, to reach those decision makers. We want to enhance credibility and increase sales. So around leadership, so B2B brands can drive thought. I remember B2B is business to business. B2B brands can drive thought leadership, so really important. So think about things like webinars and events, and talking at events and kind of even podcasts, really important. It can help you reach those decision makers because it's really effective. The targeting is really effective. Enhances your credibility because you become more visible in reputable trade publications. And it's important there, I think, to think about the right publications for your business and brand in terms of like their domain authority from an SEO point of view, but also like from their readership positioning as well. And then finally, think about like that conversion on your marketing funnel. So it's very much about increasing sales. So like lead nurturing is really important here. Sort of creating like long-term visibility. I think the difference again between like B2B and B2C is kind of shorter window with B2C. With B2B, I think you've got a longer window there. So I think it's a kind of a longer term activity. And I tried to pull out a couple of examples. This one's not so obvious. So IBM do these, they sort of sponsor lots of business activities and think panels. And I couldn't get any examples from the actual conferences they do. So I just pulled out some branding from sort of the outside of the event, just to kind of bring it to life. But it's, you know, it was hard to get kind of the context, but I just wanted to kind of explain that IBM are kind of really behind kind of business events and leadership events. The Times do similar things as well. The Times newspapers kind of have business forums, but it was hard to get kind of examples of product placement within them. This looks more like sponsorship, but it's not because it's their own event. And then I went over to Apple. So this is Ted Lasso, probably some of you know, and actually this appeared on Apple TV. But it does, and I know it's not like a pure business setting, but it does kind of help promote the iPhone within business context for like business leader that you'd recognise here, Ted Lasso, and with this character here that Jennifer Aniston plays as well. She was a business leader there. Okay, so now we're going to look at how we add value to B2B and B2C campaigns. So starting at the top, I'm sorry, it's a rubbish diagram. I'm absolutely rubbish here, but it just gives you an idea of how we go around. So we start at here and we end with measurement. Think about your marketing funnel. So it definitely enhances brand visibility. It drives trust and credibility. It helps you reach your target audience. And that's particularly brilliant, like B2B as well. It helps kind of build your narrative and being an authentic brand, business or service. It helps develop your content effectively. And finally, there's an element of measurement as well. It allows you to kind of accurately measure and think about your ROI. I thought it might be helpful to actually kind of give you some examples of where the key differences between B2B and B2C product placement. So the elements are listed down here on the left. So we've got goals, strategy, target audience, the decision-making process, product management, and content type. So within B2B, the goal would be around brand awareness, lead gen, engagement. It would be around establishing authority. It would be around building brand trust and sales. So this is what you're aiming to achieve with B2B product placement. Whereas over here on the right-hand side with B2C, your goals would be around driving brand awareness and connecting with potential customers. Very much about building an emotional connection with them. So it's build like more of a narrative, I think, with them. And then I've put a conversion here as well. So sales and conversion are true for both. You know, we want to see sales as a direct kind of result of like your product placement. Then we move on to strategy. For B2B, it's around building a relationship with your target audience. And it kind of because it's a longer term thing, it is around building relationships. It's not just like a quick win, right? It's something that you know how to do that's like a longer term. So that's why this word building is really important here, because it's not an overnight thing. Whereas with B2C, it's not quicker. So it's like capturing attention, making decision process quick and easy. So there's a difference there in terms of your timings. Okay, so one's longer tail, one's like quick, short term. So with target audiences, with the B2Bs, we said a lot more niche and industry specific. Whereas B2C, think about your movie, right? It's broader and more general in terms of that audience. When we think about decision making, a lot longer sales cycle with B2B, whereas B2C, shorter sales cycle. So that's really, I think, when you're thinking about the two, that's really like two of the key things to think about. In terms of the management of it, I think you need to have a really deep understanding of the industry when you're doing product placement to understand what's relevant. You need to understand your target title. You need to understand the relevancy of a feature that's coming up that you want to place some content in. So, you know, you really need to have that relationship with the magazine to understand potentially where they're going to go. You need to understand what event maybe that product's going to be relevant to be placed in. And with B2B, with your product management, you need to understand consumer behavior and trends. Really important here because it's kind of a lot shorter window. So it's much more about trends and that behavior from your consumers, your target audience. And then finally, we think about the types of content. I think we touched on this before, but like industry events, thought leadership. So that could be on LinkedIn or standing at an event talking, white papers, which are like long form content, demos and print coverage. And then we think about B2C, and this is around TV, films, influencers, and social media. So in terms of building out your strategy, lovely example here, Mrs. Hinchard. She's like a cleaning guru, and she kind of paved the way for all these people on TikTok who talk about cleaning hacks. But she was like the first, or the doyenne, I guess, of like cleaning. And she kind of started partnerships with different brands. And because she was everyone sort of flocked to her, and she had these great hints and tips, that she had a really brilliant product placement. So, but I'll go from the top. So aligning, so in terms of your strategy, you need to align with relevant content. So you need to make sure you're matching your products with the right target audience. So I gave an example here around James Bond wearing Omega watch. And that's like amazing. You know, it's aspirational. He's like a hero. He's smart. He looks fantastic. You know, and there's all the things that like Omega want to kind of be associated with as a watch, and it's terribly expensive as well. So you know, he you know, it sort of fits in perfectly. In terms of working with influencers, you know, you can enlist the support of an influencer to add credibility. So therefore, like Sif was a great match with Mrs. Hinch and what she kind of projects with her cleaning insights and advice. And she's got a massive, she built a business around it. And then data-driven targeting, so looking at consumer insights. So here I'd kind of think about persona data for your brand to help you kind of retarget effectively. And finally, again, a measurement. So look at your engagement metrics to track brand recall, social reactions, and sales post-placement. And then we look at building a B2B strategy. So I've taken this image from an event we help manage, and it's outside a stand, and it's products they put outside their stand with this particular logo on, and people can pick these products up and put them into their bag. Okay, so with B2B strategy, the content needs to be really industry specific. So you need to go where your audience are. So this includes events, where they're reading, what publications they're reading, and webinars. Then we looked at thought leadership, so building associations with those experts to really kind of show relevance and like build trust and create trust. Then it's all around relationship building, so forging meaningful relationships with like journalists and target press. Really important. That's a long-term thing as well. You know, we talked about the length of time that B2B takes. It's a lot longer, you know, to build those relationships up with journalists. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot longer. And then finally, measurement again. So return on investment. So showing your effectiveness and conversion. So I put some benefits here for B2C. So this is a product, an image of, it's supposed to be an influencer filming herself, looking at makeup, and she's highlighting a brand here in her hand to camera. So that's what her followers will see. They follow her, and she's promoting this brand. So what are the benefits then? So subtle advertising, so it's less intrusive than adverts, making products and services more appealing and certainly more memorable. Allows you to integrate products more because it's more seamless into the kind of narrative that you want to build, helping you build that deeper connection between the brand and the audience. So it's like, it's kind of saying, I really recommend this, you know, I've used this on my skin. It's great. You know, it could be a problem solver. It could be that, you know, it's a really good piece of makeup. It could be new, you know, but it's trusted by your audience. So the content's interactive. As you can see, this is very interactive here with this example. So it encourages the audience engagement and interaction of the brand. It's featured on social media because it's really easy to track as well then, because you can look at the engagements and likes and shares, that kind of thing. And even things like video games are using product placement. And then finally around brand association. So we think this example here is around cross promotion. We talked about that earlier. So if you're working with another brand, so it can build positive associations to kind of build credibility and enhance brand perception. And then I think it's very much about trust for those B2B product placement. So increases brand visibility, so exposing brands to engagement through trusted sources. So it's those trade publications, for example, or events that someone's attending, which kind of helps build recognition. It's very much targeted to your audience, much easier to target for B2B. So effectively reaches specific audience demographics to make those PR campaigns more valuable, and kind of can really enhance your brand image. So it associates brands and services with positive emotions and experiences. So I had that example before about the goodie bags. They're a key thing at trade shows. So it's a really good thing to have, and kind of your brand basically goes home with the audience, which is really positive. I thought it was interesting to look at kind of sort of like a SWOT around the kind of opportunities and threats with product marketing. So so SWOT essentially is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Perhaps it's the wrong way around here, but I thought it was useful kind of, because it's not, you know, a one size fits all approach. It might not work for your brand, so I think you need to be aware of that. So the strength of it is that the product placement can be authentic and subtle, and that's really positive. The weakness is that you know, can it be measured? And I think, you know, it's you know, we want that to be a key component of it. And also I'd say here as well, a weakness would be if the brand doesn't fit, or like, you know, it's you know, if it's out there too long, it's no longer relevant. There are opportunities with it. You know, you can grow your credibility and build trust. You can build a narrative out with product placement, you know, with cross promotion particularly. You know, it becomes a really valuable attribute. And then a threat, yeah, can you control the brand when it's out there? You know, can you control what's happening with your product and service? Is it getting into the right hands? You know, is there a chance it's overexposed? How authentic is it? You know, and it's, you know, long term. So there's definitely kind of lots of things to think about, and like potential damage that, you know, might be with the brand, you know, when you're placing it out there. So just to be mindful of those things. I love this image here, like superhero. So, and like advertising, there is little control over how your product or service will be portrayed. So if you're placing like content in a kind of listicle or review, and it's being called in for review, is it going to reach top or bottom? You know, you actually don't know unless you've got an insight into how that's going to work. You know, you don't actually know where it's going to be placed. So it's a bit of a gamble, can be a gamble. Measurement we had there as an issue in terms of the SWOT. So it can be harder, especially with B2Bs. For example, when we looked at that example in the trade press of like the product placement on the left-hand side of the page and the ad on the right-hand side, what are people remembering, the ad or the product placement? Like, how are you measuring that? You know, when you're looking back and saying, oh, we've got a sale because of that feature in the magazine. Well, was it from the feature? Was it from the ad? So, you know, it's quite an interesting scenario there to think about. Authenticity is really important. So overexposure can be very damaging to your brand, business or service, along with any kind of unnatural placements. It's as bad as an ad because it doesn't look seamless, it doesn't integrate. And I think it's important, if you're going to be using an influencer, that they actually align with your brand values. You know, it's pointless actually using someone if they're not relevant. Like, you know, Mrs. Hinch eating a pizza is not relevant, but Mrs. Hinch using Cif or like the whites of the pink stuff to clean is completely relevant. So you've got to do a lot of work to make sure your influencers are actually applicable for your brand, product or service. And I think finally here, it's really important to be clear on your objectives, because it can help measurement, because you actually know what you're trying to achieve, what you're looking to achieve. So it allows you to measure more effectively. So let's talk about measurement. I keep going on, banging on about measurements. Let's talk about that. So let's start from here. So we can measure success within looking at impressions and readership in terms of what where that article has been placed, you know, with the product in. Obviously, sales and in terms of conversions. We can look at engagement rate and traffic as two other key indicators. We can then view share voice. That means like how much visibility you've got against a competitor in the same space. We can look at levels of coverage and also the sentiments. That means whether it was negative or positive or neutral. That's an important thing. So we're measuring coverage or, share voice. Let's make sure, it's got to be positive and in fitting what you wanted to achieve in terms of those objectives. And finally, we can, in terms of a success measure, we can think about brand recall. So you can ask this in a focus group. We can actually talk about brand recall in a focus group situation. We can talk about recognition of the brand products or service. And key opinion leader, that's what COL stands for, key opinion leader. The relationships are formed with key opinion leaders based on like that placement. So that's important as well. And that's particularly like for a trade, like a B2B kind of situation. And I wanted to kind of finish up a bit by talking about trends, because it's not all about like what's happened in the past, what you can do. It's about what you can do in the future. And so I think, we know that AI is everywhere. And as a business, Annika really champions AI and has done a lot of work looking at the research value of AI. So within product placement, embrace it, so there's an opportunity to kind of use AI-driven content placement to integrate products into virtual and augmented reality environments. So we're looking at VR here. So how can like VR scenarios actually incorporate your product, brand or service? Something really important to think about because it's not going away and it's like absolutely being embraced by businesses. So there's the chance that influencers are going to become more niche, because people understand what influencers are. So influencers actually are kind of drilling down to different areas and becoming more niche, so they can add more value to product placement. Because the audience following them is going to be far more engaged because they're much more unique to that particular influencer. And then point forward around product placement becoming more interactive. So it enables direct engagement from the target audience. And that's not just on socials, but it could be like around sort of like VR headsets and that kind of thing. And finally, sustainability is a huge like topic, and ethics is a huge topic. It's becoming more relevant within businesses. It's, sustainability is something that businesses have to embrace in terms of different targets. So let's think about in the future trends about building sustainability and ethical attributes into product placement, as the consumers and like your target audience really kind of more embraces CSR, corporate social responsibility, and ethics. So that's something to really kind of think about kind of going forward. And I just wanted to kind of show this diagram from a business called Faster Capital, and again the links here. So when you download your slides, you'll be able to go into this and see this diagram here. But obviously, because I've used it, I want to flag it. So this is around the benefits of AI generated product placement. Really efficient to use AI within this context. Personalization is going to be really much easier to do here as well, particularly thinking about like the targeting, because it's going to be actually reaching their quite defined audience. The cost effectiveness is quite good within it as well. So you can actually be quite strip your budget, and it can be looked at at scale too. You can scale it up or down, so that's really important. And also I think it's important here around consistency, because again people then learn to understand what to expect from that placement with AI generated product placement, and it allows you to have quite good data driven insights in terms of measurement. And there's a lot of creative possibilities here because you're using AI generated to kind of drive the narrative. So in summary, so product placement offers a load of opportunities for both B2B, so business to business, and business to consumer PR. So it's definitely something to think about when you're thinking about your strategy. So whilst both have like specific attributes, so they both do different things, there's a common theme around creating trust, credibility, and being authentic. And we think about like it's not an ad, that's how it's like, more authentic. It can be really effective for B2B. It's not just around B2C. And just definitely presents a kind of really big opportunity to gain share voice against your competition. So really important. So you can jump on feature opportunities, and you can add products to event goodie bags and support webinars as a really effective B2B tactic. And just remember, B2C is not just about the movies. So instead, like think about TV, social media, influencers, and AI as that like really important future trend. So like, B2B is B2C, is more than just kind of placing Coke in a movie or Starbucks, that we saw that example. And finally, measurement. It's really important. For measurement, it's really important to determine your effectiveness of the message, brand recognition, sales, and ROI. Okay, that's me.
Thank you so much, Amy. That was actually quite informative.
Good.
That was really, really informative. Thank you so much. I'm just going to go through the chats just to see if there are any. First of all, the review just got popped up on the screen. So if you can please kindly give a review, that would be great. I'm just going to go through the chat just to see if we have any PR related questions. Someone says, how could you maximize PP that doesn't display your brand? We're featured on Grand Designs this week. Our product services was talked about. However, our company name wasn't mentioned. Isn't it on the website for SEO, social channels?
Yeah, I think you've got. I know there's loads of kind of like rules and regulations around placement. I've worked with TV placement before. I worked in a campaign called the F Word when I was at an agency. So, but it was a sponsorship with that, so slightly different. So we had much more leverage in terms of the brand value. But I think maximise the hell out of it in terms of what you can do on your website and on socials. And I think that's one way you can do it, and kind of maybe create some content around it as well, to actually talk about the product attributes in a bit more detail and why they actually used it and why it was benefit, and like how that target audience would find it of benefit. So I think it's brilliant. It's such a, but I know it's restrictive when you can't do the mentions and they don't show the brand on, but just allows you then like just to kind of elevate it as much as you can for your own channels. That's my advice there.
Okay. Perfect. I'm just gonna still scan through just to see if there are any other questions that weren't answered during. Not really.
I was looking at the comment from Ness. We got working with a big insurance company last year, and they were putting in threat or risk strategy, which I find interesting for a company focusing on others. Yeah, it's interesting as well, because I think with financial institutions, there's like a lot of rules and regulations. And I think for any brand, you've got to think about your SWOT. Whether it's like a soft brand or whether it's something like an insurance policy, it's really important, because you've got to understand whether it is exactly the right thing to do. So yeah, I would do it particularly for that kind of financial institution.
Perfect. I think that's it in terms of like questions. The others were just like statements and just like going through like your presentation and people just agreeing basically with you.
Great. Well, I enjoyed presenting, and I enjoyed doing some extra research around this and getting some of those examples. You can go down a bit of a rabbit hole, because often it's just when you look for examples, you sort of show me an example of it. Always is movies and film, and I think a lot of the work that's been done on product placement has been done historically,
Right.
and I think there's a real big opportunity, particularly like the future trends with AI and those virtual reality headsets. So like I think there's a step change that's kind of needed around like how it could be positioned. And I saw actually a question around gaming. I'm not a gaming expert, so with where do you get your brand into gaming? I have a ski business, would like to be a brilliant fit for a ski racing game, but how do I do that? I think for me, you'd go to the originators of the game, and I'm sure there'd be opportunities through just speaking to people who who are doing these kind of games. But I'm just not I'm familiar with gaming at all to kind of give you the insight into that. If I can find anything out, I'll let you know. But no, I'm sorry, I can't answer that fully.
Thank you so much, Amy. So for next week's presentation or webinar rather, we have Emil taking us on taking your meta catalog ads to the next level. So everyone just look out for that particular invite. And you can go ahead to register for next week's webinar. So again, as I mentioned, the handouts are in the handout section. Please do well to go ahead to download that. If you would like to see previous webinars, you can go straight to our website, and then you can rewatch that and also download the handouts from there. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you so much, Amy, for taking this webinar.
Pleasure.
And everyone have a beautiful day. Yeah.
Thank you. See you soon. Have a great Friday.
Bye.
Bye.